Hey, welcome to EPN. My name is Victor Lucas, and we bring you the latest in everything cool every single day. Today's rundown is going out to our old friend Rowan Strada, who was very cagey and asked that we dedicate this rundown to him. Guess what? There you go. Capcom has announced that last year's Monster Hunter World has become their best-selling game of all time. It shipped 12 million units since it was released last January, making it the biggest single title in Capcom's history. However, if you include re-releases and Ultra Editions, Street Fighter II is still the reigning champion because all the different versions of that have sold more than 20 million copies since 1991. This is still obviously a big win for Monster Hunter and Capcom in general. The game was designed to have more mainstream appeal than the previous Monster Hunter entries, making it a bigger hit with international players outside of Japan. As for Capcom, the publisher has seen something of a revival in recent years because along with Monster Hunter World, other recent titles like Devil May Cry 5 and the remake of Resident Evil 2 have also sold exceptionally well. And I think this really harkens back to giving players a lot of the core gameplay that we grew up loving. What's awesome is that Capcom has sort of, gone back to its roots a little bit and given people games that are absolutely refreshes or retakes on game concepts that we're familiar with, but with state-of-the-art visuals and beautiful production values and incredible music and all of the stuff that we're looking for modern gaming. It's paying off. Hats off to Capcom for realizing that and giving us games that we really love. The Starfleet shipyards are going to be working overtime because CBS is doubling down on the final frontier. With the second season of Star Trek Discovery wrapping up and a third season already on the way, CBS is expanding their plans for more Trek content. They've announced the creation of a new global franchise group focused specifically on Star Trek, with the goal of expanding the franchise with more broadcasting and streaming shows, as well as new transmedia content. That's a fancy way of saying that the network is making a lot more Star Trek, and this is on top of Discovery and all the other new shows already on the way, like the Picard series starring Patrick Stewart and the Section 31 Spy series starring Discovery's Michelle Yeoh. Having a dedicated franchise group to oversee everything will help ensure that all the new Star Trek content has a consistent tone and feel, which is something done by other big franchises like Star Wars and Marvel. This is a big deal. This is really proving out the CBS All Access model. Discovery's a phenomenal show. I know it's not Blake's favorite, but I think it's just absolutely gorgeous and really cool, and it just makes perfect sense because Star Trek is this persistent franchise, this persistent universe that is, constantly peeking its head up and becoming part of the pop culture zeitgeist. And I think it's time for the stakeholders to take it seriously. And hopefully there's going to be a lot more correlation and connection with the endeavors that are happening with the movies. But hopefully the through lines will start to make a little bit more sense and doesn't necessarily have to all be wrapped up in the same universe like what MCU tried with its movies and TV shows. But it would be good if they weren't complete deviations, And I don't know, maybe there needs to be kind of like a Roddenberry commandment list or something like that sort of lays down the law on what separates Star Trek from the other sci-fi shows and movies like Battlestar and Star Wars and stuff like that. I don't know what the answer is, but I think this is steps towards that answer, and I think we're going to get consistently better content if people are really sort of looking over it and trying to build in some commonalities and make something really, really polished and true to what Star Trek started its mission with. Hollywood is still trying to open up the puzzling Lament configuration and give us another Hellraiser. The long-in-development reboot of the S&M-themed horror franchise is apparently being conjured up once again. The Dark Knight writer, David S. Goyer, has been brought on board to produce the project and write a new screenplay from scratch, tearing apart and scrapping all the previous attempts. To say that this project has been stuck in development hell would be an understatement. A new Hellraiser movie has been in the works for years, being poked and prodded by many different filmmakers, so we'll just have to see if Goyer is able to bring it back to life. In a statement, Goyer says that he's a big fan of the original movie and horror master Clive Barker, who directed the original and also wrote the novella upon which it was based. Barker is serving as a producer this time around.
What's your pleasure, sir?
In my many lives as an EP interviewer and reviewer, somehow along the way, I guess it was Clive Barker's Undying, I met Clive Barker, and he was a fascinating gentleman. He spoke in a hushed tone. We shot it with lots of shadows. It was dark and creepy, but he was a nice guy. I'm not a horror buff. I'm not really, into the idea of a big S&M horror movie franchise, but apparently lots of people are. But this just brought back all these memories of interviewing Clive Barker so long ago, Fascinating dude.
We'll tear your soul apart.
If If a pirate life is for you, get ready to pillage and plunder in VR. Take a look at Battle Wake, a new pirate VR game from Raw Data and Creed Rise to Glory developer Survios. Players will control their own pirate ship and then go up against others in PvP combat on the high seas, complete with traditional pirate weapons like cannons, along with less realistic magical power-ups. There's also PvE modes where you can take on massive enemies like krakens. Judging by the trailer, the game looks like a more fast-paced version of Sea of Thieves or a colorful VR version of the pirate combat in Assassin's Creed Black Flag. Battle Wake sets sail on the PC this summer. I like the idea of being a pirate in VR. I think that sounds like a lot of fun. I love that Survios is trying all kinds of stuff. They're clearly, well-funded, and they've had some hits and some successes, but they're trying different kinds of ways to get us involved with VR, and, pirate games can be pretty damn fun. I'm psyched for this. Disney is fixing some of their more problematic things from their past, like a cat on a hot tin roof. The upcoming live-action remake of the 1955 animated movie Lady and the Tramp will not include the infamous Siamese cat song from the original movie. Variety reports that the film will instead replace it with a new song composed and performed by Grammy winner Janelle Monáe, who's also creating several other new tunes for the film. In the original sequence, the hero dog Lady is pestered by a pair of devious Siamese cats who are drawn as racist Chinese stereotypes, something that might have been socially acceptable in 1955, but not today. It's unclear if Disney also plans to remove the song from the existing animated movie, and if they do, it wouldn't be their first time. The flagrantly racist Black Crow sequence from the 1941 version of Dumbo has been removed from recent editions of the film, and even bigger than that, the downright appalling 1946 movie Song of the South hasn't been given any kind of official release by the studio in decades. The new Lady and the Tramp is one of the first big movies being made by the new Disney Plus streaming service, expected to land this November. I think this is the right move. I mean, I'm sure certain people would make the case that the art of a different era, even if it represents some really grotesque stuff, should persist as art that we see throughout the ages. But the problem is that Disney is a company acutely aware of the value of its archive and finds ways to get that out to people in lots and lots of different formats. And I think you have to adapt if you're making fresh versions of this content for new eyes. And it is tough to watch some of that stuff. Even Peter Pan has got some pretty horrendous stuff. I watched that with my daughter and was just shocked at some of the blatant racism it's not racism, it's just overt stereotyping that's in that movie. But I think it's the right move. You have to look at what you're putting out into the world. And Disney's aware of that. They're a smart company. And speaking of changes, HBO has decided to quit caffeine. The network has quietly removed the errant coffee cup from the latest episode of Game of Thrones. On Sunday, audiences were quick to notice that a modern Starbucks-style paper coffee cup can be seen on a table in front of Daenerys for approximately 2 seconds. This obvious gaffe quickly became a meme on social media, with HBO themselves even making light of it in official statements. But despite that, the network isn't willing to let it slide. The cup has since been digitally removed in the streaming version of the episode, currently available on HBO Go. The coffee-less version will presumably be the cut available in future home video releases of the episode. I think it's hilarious that that made it to air, and so many people that saw that cut never caught it, but eagle-eyed viewers that, not that eagle-eyed because it was pretty obvious. It is just amazing, and I think it kind of speaks to how quickly people were working on the day and how much work had to get done. I mean, these episodes are like full theatrical films, They're so packed with material and locations and content and people and extras, and especially in that sequence there, the room was just packed with activity. It's easy to understand how a mistake like that could be made, but HBO is probably doing the right thing to make sure that future viewers of this thing aren't looking out for that. That's an easy fix to make and the appropriate one as well. All right, you guys, that's going to do it for our rundown today. Thank you so much for watching. Tomorrow, we're back in the studio for a brand new EP Live. That's at the VFS Cafe at 390 West Hastings. We'd love it if you came down and joined us. Our guest tomorrow is going to be Brian Provinciano, who has just released Shakedown Hawaii, so I can't wait to talk to him about that. It's going to be very fun because, obviously, the last time that we had him on, he was just prepping it and getting it and finishing it and polishing it, and now the reviews are starting to hit, and this game is out there, and I've been playing it and having a lot of fun with Shakedown Hawaii. So I can't wait to talk to Brian tomorrow. The show starts at 4:30 p.m. Pacific. You can watch it on this channel right here. You can come down and watch it in person. Thanks for watching, everybody. Play forever.